We made it to the Snow Bros channel here again this Monday morning. It's March 2nd, although this time it should be more the Ice Bros channel. Beautiful picture there of ice. We know that it is not beautiful when the ice falls and sticks to the road surfaces like it will do so today and tomorrow. In this video, we'll break down the icing totals as you'll see here. Let's pinpoint some of these areas. A little bit of icing stretching from St. Louis all the way to Philly. Fly that map in just a little bit tighter. So north of St. Louis through central Illinois, southern Indiana, northern Kentucky, areas of icing in there, and also closer to D.C. Now the highways impacted will be 72, there's 57, mostly kind of 55 and 70 south to 64 or so. There's that ribbon of icing in there. Now for the D.C. area, you shift out toward the Virginias. We've got 81, 64 here, mostly in those higher areas. The hills and the mountain areas will have some icing accretion there, but Charlottesville, potential for some slick drives as we get into Monday night and Tuesday morning. And then most of the D.C. area up to about Philly. Notice how I-95 is such a cutoff. Bigger icing potential I-76 near Harrisburg or even up to I-80 or so. Pittsburgh, Youngstown, mostly on the backside of the event, so not much of an icing there. But again, if this is 95 from Trenton, Philly, Wilmington, stretching down into Baltimore, and then D.C. and Fredericksburg, you can see 95 listed here. Northwest of that area, closer to Winchester, is going to be the focal point of some icing on the highways as we start, well, really tonight through Tuesday morning. So a bit of a commute issue for some folks if the ice builds up thick enough. And in just a moment, we'll break down those totals. Let's kind of reset, if you will, okay? So meteorologist Matt Makins here. Brian and I have been talking about these systems passing on through for the last several days, and the systems will continue to do so. Notice in here how we're having the rain and the thunderstorm activity in the greens and the yellows and the red shades. The pinks, that's icing areas. The snow is in blue. Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock, we have icing in areas as just pinpointed with some of those map zooms that we just did. Snowfall will be sliding throughout the New England states toward Maine and also into eastern Canada, with rainfall and thunderstorms possible elsewhere. This is one storm system. As we go through the rest of this week, we'll be tracking additional storm after storm providing rain, ice, and snow. March, relatively springy month. Temperatures have been warming up. So yeah, we have to worry about more icing events and rainfall eating away from snowfall totals too. But again, for 72-hour snowfall, watching that same band as already shown to you, and I'll pinpoint totals here in just a second. Snowfall map first. We've got the Rocky Mountains obviously catching some snow a little bit down to the south in Colorado and Nebraska. Little swath here as we go from the Midwest toward the Northeast. All right, let's get more specific with a timeline. I zoomed the map down to the southeast, trying to stay close to the center of this storm system, if you will. And we'll go through the southeast, and then I'll shift that map view toward the northeast when we need to do so. So here's Monday this morning at 7 o'clock. We've got rain here in the greens and the oranges, a little bit of thunder possible, but St. Louis stretching to Louisville along 64. South of that line is rainfall. Along that line and north up to I-70 will be some icing. So we may see icing around Louisville, Bloomington, Indianapolis, Cincy, or even Dayton. You go north of these areas and that is snowfall. And notice as we get toward the afternoon, mostly change that area over to rainfall. We've warmed up with daytime heating. We have the potential, at least a slight chance, of catching some snowflakes around the D.C. area from say Norfolk to Richmond, Fredericksburg up to Baltimore, Winchester along 81 and also 70 here, close to Roanoke and Morgantown. There's going to be a pocket of some snowfall possible. Again, that's kind of more terrain based, so the higher the elevation, the higher chance for snowfall versus a little bit of icing or versus rain. As we get into the night, we're going to be tracking still some pockets of ice, maybe some leftover snowflakes into the D.C. area, and this is 7 o'clock for tonight. Overnight, now 1 o'clock in the morning, you can see a general mix of rain and icing. Let's change our map view. Let's begin to shift it up to the north and east. Same time, okay, so we're early Tuesday morning. Where is that icing? It's along I-80 here in sections of Pennsylvania. As we go later in the day, notice how we've pushed the icing to the north, limited it a bit with daytime heating. So we've got some rainfall in here from Philly to New York. But from Syracuse down close to Boston, including Hartford and Providence, there is a chance there along 90 to catch some snowfall. Higher chances for snowfall as we go through Vermont, New Hampshire, into Maine, and also into eastern Canada. And as we go later in the week, we'll redo this. Several systems ahead will do the same thing. Perhaps some snow, perhaps some ice, perhaps some rain. very spring-like wintry mixes on the way throughout the course of this week. And we'll do it again as we go later in this week. Here's this weekend for the example. Friday into Saturday, spreading another system with wintry mixes out there. Let's worry about that system as we get closer. Okay, let's just worry about this early week one. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What could we be potentially looking at in terms of snowfall? Well, for New England areas, the Northeast, you get out into Maine, perhaps an inch or so in Burlington and Augusta. So throughout New Hampshire and Vermont, yeah, there's going to be some pockets of a couple to a few inches, but most of us not there. I changed that modeling to also bring in Eastern Canada, and we're looking at perhaps 15 centimeters or so. I think for Halifax to get to 22 is a bit of a stretch in that particular data, but it just gives you an example. We're not talking about blockbuster snowfall totals here, just a little bit of snowfall. Let's also bring in other areas like New York, Philly, Baltimore, Harrisburg, or Columbus, Indianapolis, St. Louis. Similar story. Not very much snowfall, just a little bit. And as soon as it falls, it may actually melt because the temperatures are warming up. Let's get into our ice. Some of the totals that you'll see on the map, stretching along I-70 and I-80. Yeah, you see some pinks on the map. That's indicating a very light coating of some icing, especially on elevated surfaces, areas that may be shadowed, sidewalks, bank parking lots, wherever that may be, may have that icing. But as you look at Roanoke up to Winchester, not a deep ice, just enough to be inconvenient. Winchester, about 1/10 of an inch or so of ice. Obviously, that would have tremendous travel impact if it happens to be on the highways or your side roads just as you're trying to get to work or school Tuesday morning. That's the worry here. Same for Indianapolis, Bloomington, Louisville, Lexington, and Cincinnati. That other pocket of icing, yeah, it's going to be inconvenient, perhaps dangerous in some cases if the setup is perfect. But we're not talking about a tremendous ice storm per se, just the timing of this ice being Monday night tonight through Tuesday morning may impact your commute to or from work or school depending on your exact spot. But get past lunch tomorrow and we've warmed up. We've sent the snow well up to Canada, and we're changing things back over to rainfall and melting off whatever ice or snow may remain. Just fly into the DC area, Annapolis, Baltimore, Alexandria, and Fredericksburg. Again, 95 here from Philly all the way down to Petersburg. Northwest of that, that's where you're going to find some of that icing. So perhaps you're driving I-70 from Hagerstown down to Baltimore, or trying to get out of Cumberland or Winchester up to York, Lancaster. These kind of locations may have enough icing to give you a slick drive. So just be careful of that. But again, by Tuesday midday into the afternoon, evening, we've recovered. Temperatures have warmed. We may actually have some rainfall at this point, but we'll continue to track these systems throughout the course of the week. Each one will carry icing potential, snow potential, and rain potential. Now, Tuesday morning has the icing issues. To school, to work, those kind of things. From snow to rain, that's going to be a big talking point with every single system that we have. Sure, you may wake up with snowfall Tuesday morning, say you're in New England or Vermont, New Hampshire, parts of New York, or Maine, but it doesn't last long. It's going to be replaced by warmer temperatures, so rain or even some icing, very light on the icing, but perhaps some rain. So we're tracking that, and several of these systems will come ahead. Some will be stronger than what we're chatting about right now, and Brian and I will be tracking those carefully for you, and that next potential of possibly a stronger system would be late this week, Friday, going into the weekend. So he'll and I'll provide you further updates as we go forward in time. Thank you for joining us here on Snow Bros. It's been a great weather community. We love your comments. It's nice to hear everyone's reports or questions about the weather. We're just happy to bring you the data as we see it and we interpret it to just keep you ahead of the storm, if you will. So thanks again for supporting Snow Bros. If you're subbed, you'll get the alerts the next time a video is posted, but look for those throughout the course of this week. Hope you have a great day.